Today's episode is brought to you by HERdacity. HERdacity is a nonprofit inspiring confidence in women to achieve their professional goals. For resources, networking opportunities, and a strong community of women, visit HERdacity.org to learn more.
Welcome to HERdacious, a podcast for audacious women. Greetings to you all. I'm Lorelei, the host of HERdacious, and we're recording out of Moonlab Studios in Austin, Texas. I am so pleased to share some time with you today. And joining me on this show, we have lobbyist, entrepreneur, and author of the upcoming book, Find Your Fire, Terri Broussard Williams.
Hello.
Hello, Terri.
Thank you for having me here.
It is my great pleasure.
Hey, let's get to it.
So today we're going to talk about acknowledging our successes as women, whether that's successes in the professional realm or successes in our personal lives. So how would we start owning our success as women and being loud and proud about it?
That's a big question with a lot to unpack. You know, so many times people tell women to sit down, to speak a little softer, not to be so bold. And all those things, I would say, do them if they're you and your personality, but own who you are and own what you want to be. But I think that the answer is not something that is singular. It's something that requires a couple of steps so that you can be in a place to be successful and a place where you can own those successes that will come. You know, some women might think that once you have hit a milestone, then that would allow you to just really go really loud. And you should celebrate every little thing. Everything that is incremental should be attributed to your success. But I really believe there's a framework and methodology that lets you do that in a way that feels humble and feels authentic and feels like it is sincerely you. That is what we should strive for every day.
All right. Well, talk to me about the framework. How can we start striving for our authentic selves and maybe stepping out of some of the culture that tells us how women are supposed to rep themselves?
So first, you really want to learn by doing. You know, once you learn what you're trying to do, if it's being your best as a doctor or a teacher or building a brand, you really want to follow people that you aspire to be like and practice and sometimes fail forward. There's nothing like celebrating a success after you failed. You know, we're wired to think that we're only allowed to shout from the rooftops when we have succeeded. But what if you failed miserably in the most public way, but you've created change in the process? So one thing that I think of without going too much off of a tangent is, you know, this week was a big week in politics. We're recording this the week of Super Tuesday. And so many women ran for office and either suspended a presidential campaign or they ran for office and did not make it to the runoff. So you could see that as a failure, or you could choose that to be learning by doing. Those women created something great, a movement in the process, and it's something that they can own. So that's why I say really sometimes you just have to learn by doing and celebrate that failure.
I love the fail forward aspect. You don't hear that very often. Fail forward, taking an opportunity to learn from your failures and growing with that. And you also mentioned something in that about emulating others. So finding folks to follow in their footsteps, learn from, which I guess is the learn by doing.
Yeah. I mean, so for me as a lobbyist, and then I want to go back to something you said about failing forward, but for me as a lobbyist, I had never met a lobbyist before my first day at work. You know, I went to the state capitol for 5th grade field trip and then returned my first day on the job.
Hold on. You became a lobbyist without ever having known other lobbyists.
That's right.
Holy cow.
So, you know, I hung out with the best of the best, the women that I looked up to at the Capitol, and just watch them do their work and their craft, and literally would just stand on their side and listen. And at some point, you know, they might start asking you to do something to help them with legislation, or they might invite you to a reception or a happy hour where you can get exposed to other things. And so, you know, I never strive to be like someone, but I can be inspired by them. And so many of the women in my life that have inspired me, you know, of course, my mother and my grandmother, but there's a federal judge in Columbia, South Carolina, who would just always take me to dinners and receptions. And I learned a lot about politics and the way that you just network and really learn from others who they are just by being in her presence. Yeah. So just hang out with those people who really want you to succeed. And a lot of times, one thing that I say when I talk about this is, you want to be around women and just people in general that lift you up. If you're in a situation where, those that are around you don't receive your success and your wins or your celebration when you fell forward as something to be celebrated, and they view it as a humble brag or you bragging, they are probably not part of your tribe, right? You want to be around people that are also celebrating you and lifting you up as you climb.
Right. So it sounds like if you're hanging out with people who aren't backing you, that's not a very empowering place to be.
Right.
We want to surround ourselves with empowering voices and an empowering community.
Yeah. And sometimes people that are building, I'm building a lot right now. So I have really been attuned to others who are building because I'm getting energy. And it's so much easier to talk about a failure with someone who is going through that same experience as someone who's not, which I mentioned failure again. And I wanted to circle back. You said that you haven't heard the phrase of failing forward. And so I want to invite everyone that's listening to hold a party or a happy hour where you call it a fail fest. You tell all your girlfriends, come, we're going to have some margaritas, salt, no salt.
Come to Fail Fest.
Yes, we are coming to talk about the things that did not work well this month.
Ooh.
And then we are going to talk about how might we do things differently, how we could have helped each other, how we won't be in the same place, how we have learned from it. But a fail fest is just a fantastic opportunity to own that. And if you are a manager wherever you work, or even a volunteer manager, if you're leading a group of volunteers, incorporate it there too. You'd be surprised how proud people feel once they get over that initial hump.
I love that. So I feel like what you're sharing with me is leading us to another bullet point in your framework, because you just keep talking about having a community around you.
Yeah.
Because that seems like a big theme for you.
Yeah, I would say the second thing is empowered people empower people, especially with women.
Yes.
Empowered women empower other women. And so, I reference that I'm in this building stage of really figuring out how I might help others in the world. And so I've been curating that tribe, really working with others that are either thinking about their own platform or others that have done work similar to what I'm doing and have failed because they can provide free coaching, coaching
Sure.
over coffee. And just really being around people who are fueling ideas and helping me brainstorm as I figure it out.
So looking for these people, finding these people?
Yes.
Okay. When you said that, I heard curate.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say curate your tribe?
Yeah.
Tell me more about curating your tribe, because I think of a museum and you're picking and choosing. But I love the idea of picking and choosing. Is that more strategically around the community that you create for yourself?
Of course. So I guess to put it in a simple term is if you think about a nonprofit or a corporation, you have either an advisory board or a board of directors, people that you can turn to that, will help you solve your most pressing problems or bring resources to the table. So if you're curating your tribe, it's very much like having your own personal board of directors, people that you can call on when you have a need. For example, I sit on an advisory board for a company. And the founder is an incredible human being, Monica Kane. But Monica Kane has curated this advisory board to be people that can help her flesh out ideas, that can help her brainstorm new ideas, that can call her out on her BS. So just last night, she wrote this fabulous blog article and she asked me to tweet it out. And so, your tribe can help you think through things, but they can also be your cheerleader privately or publicly. So by me tweeting out that blog article and just saying how proud I was of her and how it was something that could be used in my own workplace, I have amplified the work that she was doing. So I am empowering her.
I love that. In my I did a little bit of research before I wanted to have a conversation with you about how women acknowledge their success, or maybe how they don't. And I came across a study by the National Academy of Sciences that found that 77% of the highest achieving women had strong ties with an inner circle of 2 to 3 other female colleagues or companions where they leveraged each other's network and gave gender-specific advice to get ahead in their role. And I thought that was an incredible strategy, and it sounds very aligned with your talk of curating your tribe.
That's right. Even when I think about right now, you mentioned I've written a book. Even when I was thinking about the team who would be on my side to do this project, all but 2 are women. That was, again, very strategic because I wanted to be around people that were inspiring me and fueling my own fire and giving me energy. But they were my own board of directors. And when at times I had to make a decision and I was mostly talking to me, myself, and I, when I should have been talking to others, they were a safe place to say things out loud that I might have been afraid to say to others. So I co-sign that stat, and I'm going to start using it too.
Excellent. Well, you're welcome. Ladies, y'all use it out there as well. So what's next after we learn by doing and we start curating our tribe? What's the other piece of the framework to keep us more aware and willing to acknowledge our successes as women?
Once you've found your fire, I talk about fire starters and all day people that see change in the world that others have ignored. But that change could be within yourself. That change could be a new project that you're bringing to the table at your workplace. It could be something that you want to create. But once you've found your fire, definitely continue to ignite your spark. Find the things that are going to keep you energized, that are going to keep you moving. And I've been a part of a lot of women's groups. When people have found their fire and they are shining and they're at their best, women then point this evil finger of justice, or what they think is justice. And they're saying, she is about herself. She is self-serving. It is so rare that someone will create, even if it's a business, it's so rare that people create a business to serve themselves. Everyone comes from this place where they want to do good from others. That I believe that it's just inherent as us as humans. And so the more that we can ignite the spark within us, the more of that we'll produce in the world, and it'll be multiplied. So if you ever find yourself in a space where you're questioning someone's intent, take a step back and say, where is that coming from? Why do I feel that way? And if you ask yourself that, and oftentimes do a follow-up, say, how might I help that person? How might I amplify what they're doing? How might I support them? You will tend to think differently about their work, and you'll find yourself on the side where you can usually cheer them on and support them.
It sounds to me like you just referenced the tall poppy syndrome.
Teach me something new.
All right. So tall poppy, I don't know if it's syndrome. It's like tall poppy something or other. But, you have a field of poppies, or let's say a bouquet, and you have one sticking out above the bunch, sticking out above the crowd. And we have a tendency as a society to not want other people to stand out too far above us. And then you cut the tall poppy.
I have never heard that. That is so true.
So you kind of reference like specifically maybe women doing that sometimes. And I feel like just generally as a society, we kind of want to bring people back down, take them off their high horse, make them more humble. And we want to do that via like shaming, negative sort of talk about these folks. And I feel like, and I seem to see in society where women specifically experience a harsher backlash or a more strident, like tall poppy syndrome, where it's just like, oh, girl, don't stand too tall.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get you.
That's right. Yes, I do think as women, tall poppy syndrome totally makes sense. I'll share a story that's very, very personal. So when I moved here to Austin, I did not know really anyone. I knew two people, two lobbyists. One I had worked with at my organization, the other I worked with in Louisiana at the Capitol. But I just started making phone calls. Hey, I'm here. I'm new to town. Can I volunteer for your organization? Can I help your organization? How can I fit in? I was looking to find my tribe, looking to build a sense of community. Very quickly, I got put on this committee or asked to chair this. Within the span of 2 years, I had chaired 3 things.
Whoa.
And there were so many people that felt I had not paid my dues here, that I cut someone in line who was ready for that volunteer commitment. But truly, I was just doing the work and I wasn't asking for any recognition. So I definitely do see how that can come to play. And so if you're listening and you're finding yourself in that situation, what I would say is ride it out, girlfriend. Those people who might be judging you today will eventually see your sincerity and eventually see that you are an authentic servant leader. And they will be among the crowd that will be cheering you on. And they might even be the person that will give you a check for that next gala that you're cheering.
When we talk about the authentic self, showing your authentic self, or the servant leadership style, I wonder how bragging, maybe not bragging, but like repping your own success, where does that come into play? Like if you're the servant leader, are you constantly always serving and you're never looking forward with hey, I was able to succeed at this, give me a chance at this? You often hear the servant leader label assigned to politicians. I think self-assigned to politicians. They're a servant leader. But hey, they're such a great servant leader. They want this next role. Look at all the great things I did. Where do women get to come in and say, hey, I have been serving in my community for X number of years. I've been volunteering for all those things that, I didn't think there was a line for. And I have been working my tush off. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're asking all the questions that are so personal to my own journey. And this one was very, very recent. I had some friends that were older than me, but I really looked up to them, like older brothers and sisters. And when I build my platform, movementmakertribe.com, that was not a shameless plug, but just a reference.
Get it.
They were so disappointed. And they told me, they came to see me speak and they said that they were disappointed. And they were disappointed in what I was building. And I think for so long, I worked with my head down and I did not ask. There might be like a Facebook post like, thank you for, this award or thank you for this opportunity, which was very sincere. But to them, that pivot into, I have done this well and I want to share that how and that why and that when with others was bragging. Literally, they told me that they preferred when I was a leader and referenced another female in the Austin community that I should be more like. And that was painful, right? Because again, going back to what I said, people start something with good intention. I always say my, magic formula is good intention, a good heart, and good work ethic. And so no one will ever build anything to serve themselves. It just does not make sense. There's time, money, and energy, and then when you couple that with blood, sweat, and tears, like, why would you do that? And so that was something that was really hard for me to grasp. And so I think it's because just there's a new world order. There's this evolution of leadership. And so much of, what we see in social media is leading to that. You see influencers who are posting on Instagram and they are becoming a leader in their own right. You might see someone that there's this girl on Instagram I'm obsessed with, Flirtily Speaks. She just posts a handwritten quote every day. And homegirl has a zillion followers. So she is leading just by this quote. And we can't say that the work that she's doing is less than anyone else in this world because we're all brought here for a particular purpose.
I love that. And can I just say, I'm super glad that you were brought here for all the purposes that you are living and breathing and being authentic.
Thank you.
I'm very glad you made the pivot and are doing the Movement Maker Tribe.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, that one kind of bruised me for a while. It really bruised my heart.
I bet.
And not my ego, my heart.
I'm like heart adjacent hurt for you.
If you knew just how close I was with these people. But it took a good 2 months just to talk to others. And I did a gut check. Sometimes when you're building something, it is the most confusing thing because, you say, I am called to do this. I want to do this in the service of others. But I also wanted to make sure that in no way in me figuring out my voice and learning my pace and stride that I was giving off any vibes that were not truly me. So I retreated for a bit and started doing more evaluations and questions and coffee chats to ask people how did it feel and how did it land. So they actually helped me refine my voice. I went from just talking about things generically or very generically to being more intentional and giving more of the detail. So making things more personal, which was something that I struggled with doing. And so this actually brings up another point. Sometimes when we make statements that are really generic and we don't talk about our struggle or how we found our way or how we got there, it might seem like a brag to others because there's not that piece that makes us human. And so in the work that you do at HERdacity, have you seen that with women? And, how would you give women their voice if they were in that space?
Oh my gosh. I feel like that gets to be part of my job every day.
Yeah, that's I'm asking.
Right. Well, that's part of why I'm here. You talk about people don't start businesses or start movements for themselves. Well, I call BS on that. People do it because they're passionate about it. Yeah. This isn't just for you. This isn't just for the community. I do the work that I do for women's issues advocacy because I'm passionate about it. And I wish that other women had stood up before me and tried to help me along. And that's not to say that there haven't been plenty, because there have been quite a few. But golly, I want to make sure that we are leaving behind a better space, a better work environment, a better professional trajectory, and a warmer, more welcoming community for women, all identified women who want to make moves in their career and make positive change in the world. I mean, if you don't want to make positive change in the world, I mean, you do you, but that's part of why I'm here. And that's why I'm passionate about the work that I do, because it feeds my soul. So on the topic of feeding souls, we're going to take a brief moment for the sponsor break.
Hi, Barbie here from Moonray, husband and wife indie pop duo. If you enjoy the intro music, we invite you to listen to our debut EP, Honeymoon, streaming now on all platforms. Visit www.moonray-music.com for more.
Alrighty, ladies, we're back. We've just talked about a bunch of different ways to grow personally and professionally and to surround ourselves with allies who will help us grow, as well as to feed our soul and to get us to the places that we want to be so that we can keep doing the good work that we're doing. So how do we continue down that path? How do we keep our spark ignited and start owning these successes and helping others along the way to do the same?
Yeah. I am so blessed. I watched my mother and my grandmother be these strong women in the community that volunteered, that, won awards for their volunteerism. They never did it alone, and they always acknowledged the people that helped them, but they also always made a way for someone else. So from that, I told myself, I will do the same, but taking it a step further, if I get asked to do something because I was successful in that last job. So for example, if I'm being asked to chair a 500-person gala because I brought my A game to a 300-person gala, I don't have to say yes all the time. I can say yes if it's right, but if it's not right for me, and I shouldn't pass on it, then I should pass it on. I should pass it on to another woman and let them be successful. And I, earlier we talked about how do you really own your success and people not think that you're bragging. I think the more that people can see you as a human and see you lifting others, they don't necessarily always question that place that you come from, that intention. And so that's one action step, if you will, that we can help just kind of not protect ourselves, but give ourselves some space to not be seen in that way.
Right. Giving ourselves space and also lifting as we climb.
Yes.
I love that. Okay. Give me more. Tell me more.
I'm like, and don't forget that if it's not right for you, don't pass on it. Pass it on.
Pass it on.
I often say also, I love fire.
Watch out, y'all.
Once you find your fire, fuel it through moments that matter. Take a moment just to give yourself grace and space and have that mindful moment, because that is going to fuel you. Sometimes on my drive home after something went well, like a talk or a business meeting, I'm like, dang girl, do that. And I put on a little Britney Spears. But that's my moment that I am just celebrating on my own. And then a lot of times I provide mentorship for someone. If I succeeded in something, nothing gets my heart going more than watching someone else do the same thing and doing it better. Ooh. So I oftentimes learn from those that I mentor because they've learned a little bit, but they've made it their own. And last, just really build on the momentum of the work that you have done and those successes. Because if you failed forward, you will find a new way and you will grow as a person. And so that momentum will help you each and every time. And sometimes the momentum is what you need just to get started. So I've been thinking a lot over the last 3 months about the momentum that I got when I started Movement Maker Tribe, and also the momentum that I got from others as I decided to take the leap and leave an organization where I had worked for 16 years. Every time I think about that particular word, it leads me on this another path of limitless possibilities. And so some of the things that I didn't even see 3 months ago, they are so clear, and the universe is putting them right in front of me. It's so hard to put in words because it's just been this place of gratitude, but just keep finding those moments that matter.
Tell me a little bit more about how you embrace gratitude. And you mentioned a little bit about mindfulness and a little bit about your celebration, your personal celebrations. How do you embrace your gratitude and celebrate your successes privately, publicly, with community, with your loved ones? How do you go about doing that? What are the different ways that you love that also fuel your fire?
Oh my gosh. And you just set me up and you don't even know it. You just tee the volleyball over the net.
You're welcome.
Well, I've written Find Your Fire, and I am telling the stories about changemakers who have done good. My intent is not to make money off of this. My intent is to put more into the platform to allow other women and changemakers to speak, but it's also to provide good in the world. So over the next couple of weeks, and this is like breaking news because I haven't even announced it yet, but
ears out, y'all.
I know, right? There are 3 things that are coming down the pike. The first is the Momentum Award. Oh, you hadn't heard that word before. But it'll be an award for fire starters who want to sit on a nonprofit board but can't afford that board gift. So they will be able to apply for it, and there'll be a couple of different ways because I'll do a couple of them, but it'll be money to go towards that very first board gift.
Oh, that's so lovely.
And the money is coming from the proceeds of Find Your Fire, so you put good in the world, out in the world, you gotta recycle it and put it back out. That's my way of putting it back out.
That's such a beautiful way to give back to your community, Terri. Thank you for that.
Oh, I've been trying to think over the last couple of months how to do it, and I finally figured it out. And I wanted to do it, through some organizations, but I'm actually going to do it on my own. It'll be a little heavier lift, but I think it'll be more meaningful at the end. And then I am launching a line of necklaces that just kind of create that tribe. So you will look at a person you'll know she's one of my people. But it's for fire starters and movement makers. And again, the money from that will go to Momentum Awards. But I have on a turtleneck today, so I don't have on a necklace. But every time I put on my necklace, and I've been wearing it for about a month and a half, 2 months now, I say, "You go, girl." And it's my way of having that personal moment to celebrate that success of the day. And I always tell myself, I do it in the morning, right? Because you put your necklaces on in the morning, but I'm celebrating the successes of that day because I know there's going to be at least one. And so I'm also going into the day with this mindset of I'm going to crush it. And it never fails me when I don't do it. The day's a little more tough. And then the third thing, it's tied to mindfulness, but also celebrating success in an incremental way. I am launching a line of Lumenkind marks, which are mindful marks, curated for the Movement Maker Tribe. They're 4 marks, and each of the marks are tied to the framework in Find Your Fire. And so while you're building that movement, and if it's one for the world to see, like a business proposal at work or a project at work, or you're starting a nonprofit, or even it's the movement from within, or you want to focus on creating a good habit, there are 4 things that you do that will take you along the way. And so you put on this temporary tattoo or a mindful mark, and I usually put them on my hand, and you just tell yourself, you give yourself a deep breath, count to 3, and tell yourself that you are going to crush it. So the first one is, I am open to my calling.
I am open to my calling.
And you just go from there. And so every time, because I've been wearing them for a while, every time I get to that next level, it's a celebration because I'm going from one phase of what I've been working on to the next phase. So when you get to the 4th step, really, you should have a dance party in your bathroom, in your car, in your shower, somewhere, because you have done something significant and you've definitely found your fire.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love having celebratory moments to be able to acknowledge your own successes and to just know that you crushed it like a badass.
All day and every way.
Thank you. All right. So what's left? Is there anything left, or do we have the pathway? Do we have the frameworks? Are we ready to get out there and own our successes as ladies, as people, as professionals?
Yeah. I think if I had to say one more thing before we sign out, it's just continue to invest in others as you invest in yourself. I believe in depositing good karma in a bank account like it was cash.
I see you.
And so I just find on this journey, the more I invest in others, the more things that I uncover in the world that were meant for me. And I don't know about you, but I will take limitless possibilities every day.
No, for sure. I want the limitless. And I don't want the naysayers. I want my cultivated community. I want the mindful moments.
Yeah.
I want the celebratory dance parties. I want all those things. So
all the things.
Thank you for that. Give me, just before we wrap this up, give me a little tip. Give us a tool. If we are potentially, maybe sneakily, what's the word? Maybe like we have hidden folks who are in our tribe that aren't supporting us in the way that we really need to be supported. Because you mentioned curation. When you are saying yes to one thing, you're saying no to another thing.
Yes.
So maybe that's a person. How do we ex-nay that person A if they're not giving us the love and the support in a kind, meaningful manner? It's kind of tall poppy cutting.
Yeah. I talked about a little bit of this at the top, but really if you're not saying hell yes to a person, place, or thing, then it is a hell no. And that definitely translates to people. So when those people that are around you see your successes as a brag, and really you're just living your best life, you're just fulfilling your purpose, because you have found your fire, then you got to change out the players. There's always going to be another person that's going to be there to pat you on the back, or to be there on a day when you just need champagne or a glass of wine. And I say, I like wine hours, and not WINE, but WHINE.
Okay, yeah.
Because sometimes you got to wine it out to see the other side and to find the possibility. But if you don't have those people that are around you that are really for you and your purpose, you really got to switch out the players.
Give me an example of how to do that in a
gracious way.
Yeah, a generous, kind way.
It's so tough because it's really about the person, you know?
Have you had to do that before?
Yeah.
You mentioned
sure.
that horror story, but like...
Yeah. You know, sometimes it's just going to be direct. And that's when it's the toughest, when you have to look someone in the eye and say, like, really, I can't do this anymore. And I have to be honest, I've never nixed a person face to face, but the conversation has looked like, I need you to be on my team. I need you to celebrate me. This is hard, especially for me, since September. We're recording this in March. In September, I had a really bad accident where I had an extremely bad concussion that I'm still recovering from. And I move in this world very fast. And I also believe that life moves at the pace of relationships and the trust within those relationships. So there were a lot of people that relied on me for a lot of things. And I had to pull that back because I had to heal. And so I started to see that some of those people were only around because they wanted me to do work or they wanted, like, you know, free coaching sessions or whatever. But I had to say, look, I'm in this place of healing. You know, if you're really on my team, you're going to give me the grace not to show up to this committee meeting, you know, not to put pressure on me to meet with you all the time, because I just had to sit in the dark for a hot minute. The grace to flake at the last minute and not to meet for happy hour because I might have had a migraine. And so you can quickly see who those people are. But I do believe there's always a graceful way to say that. Times at work, you know, when people might not be on the same page. I've had to do this recently. There's someone that I work with that is negative all the time.
Oof.
And talks poorly about people in meetings. And so I had to say, look, and sometimes we got to vent. Sometimes there are data points that will tell us this person is not doing a good job. There's poor performance. But I believe that it's very different when you're just talking negatively about someone. And so I had to say, look, that negativity that you're bringing through your words, you're putting in the room. So the project that we're working on, we might not be successful because we're putting negative energy in that. And definitely when we go to the next meeting with this person that you're talking negatively about, it's going to be in the room. You know, again, I deposit good karma.
About to say, that's your karma in the bank. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, but I had to have that conversation with a coworker, and they acknowledged it and they shifted a little bit. And even though they might not have been like on my personal tribe, they're my tribe because we work together, and I want them to win too. So that was a way to shift it. The third way, I always like doing things in threes. If, you know, you are working on a volunteer project or just even part of a women's networking group, you know, sometimes there's also the tyranny of grace where we just tell people things are okay. Like someone will be late and they will have made the meeting run late, or they won't have done their part, and we'll be like, oh, it's okay.
Well, is it?
Well, we have to stop saying that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, if a person is not doing their part, then they're not part of our tribe. We might have to switch the players. And so it's like, hey, are you going through a rough time? Because I've noticed that, you know, you were going to bring this agenda item to the meeting and you didn't, because we can support you by letting someone else do this piece. And so that would be another way to switch out that player, because again, you know, this might not be a person of your personal tribe, but if they're on your team, even in a volunteer or networking group, they're still part of it. So just giving them that grace to say, hey, it's okay to step back, or just saying, hey, like, you can sit this one out. You don't have to be here. You don't have to be at all the things.
I love that. I think that's a wonderful way for us to wrap up this conversation. And let me do a shout out for your book real quick. If y'all are loving Terri as much as I am, do hop on the Amazon and grab yourself a copy of Find Your Fire by Terri Broussard Williams. It will hopefully ignite many, many sparks out there, and we will all fill this world with lovely, passionate power and fire.
All things. And I have to give a shout out to your necklace. We were at the Moon Lab Studios in Austin, Texas, and you have on a moon.
I did.
Was that on purpose?
No, quite by accident. But I do love you pointing it out because I hadn't made that connection.
Well, I think it brought all the spark and fire to today's conversation.
Thank you very much. So to end our episode, we are going to share a Femme fact with you to stimulate your brain and increase your knowledge of women's history. Terri, have you ever heard the phrase deeds, not words?
Oh, yes. Show me, don't tell me.
Right. So that awesome phrase comes from the pioneering English political activist Emmeline Pankhurst. Born in the UK in 1858, she was first introduced to the women's suffrage movement at the tender age of 14. At the age of 45, I think she had had about enough and she founded the Women's Social and Political Union, aka the WSPU, an all-women's suffrage advocacy organization with the famous slogan, "Deeds Not Words," as their motto and their mantra. Now, these ladies were legit rebels, and we're talking hardcore. They were considered extreme in their efforts to call attention to the suffragette movement. They were famous for their physical confrontations in militaristic style, where they heckled politicians, staged marches, graffitied government buildings, burned mailboxes, assaulted police officers, smashed windows, and even committed arson on abandoned buildings. But they did check that they were abandoned. Many of its members received numerous prison sentences where they continued to advocate for women's suffrage, staging intense and often violent hunger strikes. Emmeline herself was arrested so many times that I was unable to find a firm number as to her incarceration. But the stress of numerous prison stays and the harsh treatment that WSPU members received, especially due to the hunger strike retaliation, took their toll on her health. Now, when World War I started in 1914, WSPU members halted their suffragette work to join in the war effort. And the British government released all WSPU prisoners because there were quite a few just consistently. The contributions of British women during wartime helped convince the British government to grant women limited voting rights with the Representation of the People Act of 1918. Now, this act applied to women who met a property requirement and were 30 years of age. The voting requirement for men in this same bill was 21, or I think it went down to 19 if you had been participating in the war effort or as a soldier. That same year, another bill was passed that gave women the right to be elected to Parliament. So this is in 1918. Now we fast forward 10 years to June 14th, 1928. Emmeline Pankhurst dies in London at the age of 69. On July 22nd, 1928, Parliament passes the Representation of the People Act of 1928, which enfranchised all women with the right to vote. A famous quote of hers that really struck me is as follows: "If it is right for men to fight for their freedom, and God knows what the human race would look like today if men had not, since time began, fought for their freedom, then it is right for women to fight for their freedom and the freedom of the children they bear." The phrase "deeds not words" might also be familiar to y'all here in Texas, thanks to a former state representative who started a nonprofit of the same name, dedicated to disrupting the status quo on issues of women's equality. So Emmeline's work and legacy continue on, even in the Lone Star State.
She's a fire starter.
I love it. Fire's still burning. So thank you again, Terri. And for all of y'all, thank y'all for tuning in. Now, if you liked our show, please subscribe and tell a friend. Your recommendation is dear to us, and it keeps us alive. Until next episode, embrace the audaciousness within you. Who knows? You might just make history too.